Now it's time for your 420 Radio News for Monday, June 10th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Maine Senate opposes sending recreational marijuana question to voters. This from the Bangor Daily News. The Maine Senate on Monday snuffed any chance that the state's voters would decide at the ballot box this year whether to make marijuana legal for recreational use. The Senate voted 24-10 Monday morning against sending the question to this November's ballot. That followed a vote on Friday in the House of Representatives, where the measure fell 4 votes short of passage. The measure stemmed from LD 1229, which is sponsored by Representative Diane Russell, Democrat of Portland, who proposed a system of regulating and taxing the drug. After a clear majority of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee opposed that plan, lawmakers who voted in the minority moved forward with an amendment calling for a referendum that would send voters a straight up or down question on whether the state should craft rules to allow recreational use of marijuana. The Senate debated that question Monday. While some senators argued that the legislature should act before the issue is forced upon lawmakers by a citizen initiative, others made it clear that they don't want their votes recorded as paving the way to legalized pot. DFW Normal hosts conference in hopes of educating ending marijuana prohibition. From Dallas-Fort Worth CBS. Despite the federal government's position on marijuana, many states, including Texas, are moving closer, advancing legislation, or have even voted to change the laws regarding the personal use of marijuana for medicinal and recreational purposes. With voter approval to legalize, Colorado and Washington are now seeking to regulate the newly legal drug and keep it away from children, without being so strict that weed stays in the black market. The DFW chapter of Normal, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, held its first ever conference in downtown Fort Worth over the weekend to share the message with fellow Texans that support removing criminal penalties for the private possession and responsible use of marijuana by adults. Some of the topics featured in the 2-day conference ranged from the failure of the drug war, the cost benefits of legalization, and compassionate care, medicinal use of marijuana. Said Judge Jim Gray, the vice presidential Libertarian candidate for 2012, quote, 85% of all illegal drug users in the United States use only marijuana. He feels if the federal government will regulate and control marijuana, quote, they will not be able to justify the colossal bureaucracy, the expensive bureaucracy, to fight the war on drugs. The smell of marijuana, trigger of warrantless searches, faces new scrutiny from the Sun Sentinel. Who needs a search warrant when you've got a nose? In Florida and across the country, the smell of pot gives law enforcement the right to search a person or a vehicle without a warrant, said Officer Sandra Boonenberg, a spokeswoman for the Boca Raton Police Services Department, quote, if you smell marijuana, it's evidence of a crime, end quote. Said Lieutenant Ron Barreras, the head of the Broward Sheriff's Office Narcotics Division, quote, to me, it's common sense, end quote. He also said that smell-based searches are a regular occurrence in Broward County. Quote, if you smell marijuana, a reasonable person would believe that marijuana is there. It's definitely an avenue that has opened up many investigations for police officers, end quote, Barreras said. Locally, defense attorneys say they aren't convinced that every search is legitimate. They argue that youths and minorities are targeted disproportionately and say that because the search relies solely on an officer's word, it's prone to misconduct. Law enforcement officials dispute these arguments. They say the legal right to search a vehicle or person without a warrant is a valuable resource in their fight against crime. Quote, we profile criminals, not youths or minorities, end quote, Boca Raton's Boonenberg said in an email. ACLU study, Southwest Florida officials can't explain higher rate of marijuana arrests for blacks. From NaplesNews.com. Black people in Southwest Florida are arrested at a higher rate for marijuana possession than their white counterparts, a trend that mirrors what is happening across the country, according to an American Civil Liberties Union analysis. Blacks accounted for 7% of Collier County's population in 2011, but 16% of the county's marijuana possession arrests, according to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement data obtained by the ACLU. In Lee County, the black population was about 9% in 2011, but for those busted for pot possession, 28% were black. The disparity stumped local law enforcement officials. Unfortunately, I don't really have any reason for that, said Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott. We at Lee County Sheriff's Office arrest not based on race or gender, but did the person possess drugs, end quote. And that's your 420 Radio News for Monday, June 10th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville.